Hey there, I'm beyond excited to kick off your journey into Imprint Short Stories, where we dive into thrilling, captivating, and original tales. Brace yourself for an electrifying adventure, because today's story is an absolute game changer. Now sit back and enjoy the story. What a Mother.
I'm Dorothy Carbo Marshall, but I was born Dorothy Innes. My first husband's name was Carbo, and Marshall, my third husband. I haven't mentioned the name of my second husband. Just the mere thought of him sent chills down my spine. I grew up in a middle-class community in Painesville. As a child, I actively participated in various sporting activities. I was beautiful and popular, something everyone said. I played basketball and sang in both my school and church choirs. I also joined the quizzing team. However, my beauty surpassed my athleticism and academic prowess. By far, my beauty was my biggest asset. Young and older men and women turned to look at me as I passed by. The boys in my community mostly talked about me instead of talking to me. Some nicknamed me Little Goddess, while others called me Mother Pride. Yet countless others told me, with my beauty, that an exciting future was there for my picking. I swallowed these compliments like a hungry fish, hook, line, and sinker. One day, my mama pulled me aside. I listened to her with unbelieving ears as chills covered my entire body. My child, use this priceless body. You are young and beautiful, but these will not forever be. You are blessed with the two most prized things in this world, youth and beauty. Do not waste them. Now is the time to make good use of it. Remember, you are a flower, and bees will buzz about you for your nectar. Make sure only the right bees are attracted to your flower, and ensure they take nothing until you get a good compensation for your nectar. At 14, I lost interest in the little boys who turned their heads to look at every stride I made. My interest drifted from small talk in the corner to the cars now honking and clamoring to give me a lift. Soon I realized that Mama was right. My beauty and youth were my ticket to everywhere. I must make the most of them before turning 20, long before the sun absorbs the shine from my flower. Koo, my childhood friend and classmate, was the only obstacle to the bliss I craved. She hounded me with her advice each time an expensive car driven by an older man stopped to talk to me or give me a lift. Her shrill voice would go off in my ears. Don't do it. These men are only interested in one thing. Before you know it, they will snatch it and discard you like a piece of rag, she admonished me with a cautious whisper. I wanted to listen to Koo, but the promptings and prodding of Mama, day and night, were too strong to ignore. How do you know what these men are after? I asked. Koo shook her head with a smirk. Look behind you, she whispered in my ears. I turned and looked at the woman, probably in her mid to late 20s, sitting with her chin cupped in her right palm. Who is she? I whispered too. My older sister and greatest lesson, Koo said. I always find her in that same posture every time I come here. Does she speak? I asked. Yes, she speaks, but what does she have to say? My sister did not listen to all the advice my parents gave her. All she can do now is endure the responsibility of taking care of 3 fatherless children. My parents feed, clothe, and educate the children. She has nothing to say but live in regret. I would not like to see you burn like her. Over time, Koo and I drifted apart. Mama transferred me to a more prestigious and expensive school after I met Dr. Michael Carbo, a reputable geologist. I was 16 when I met Dr. Carbo. He was 58, separated from his wife, and had 2 adult daughters. Within weeks of commencing our relationship, Dr. Carbo asked me to see Dr. Miles for an intrauterine device. This device is a piece of T-shaped plastic that is placed into the uterus to prevent pregnancy. Dr. Miles was nicknamed the Fixer. I knew countless young girls whose mistakes he had fixed. He encouraged them to insert the device after fixing their mistakes. 6 months later, I started experiencing problems with the IUD. When I went to have it removed, I discovered that I was already pregnant, 2 weeks shy of my 17th birthday. I decided to manage the pregnancy with the few weeks left for me to complete high school. I had the child, a boy, shortly after I graduated. Dr. Carbo agreed that we should name our son Michael Carbo Jr. All this time, I was unaware whether Dr. Carbo's family knew about our relationship. I pestered him to announce me to his daughters and older sister. He told me not to worry, we had plenty of time. I was frantic as the months rolled into years. Mama advised me not to worry. I tried not to worry, but I didn't know how. Mama and I hoped and prayed that one day Dr. Carbo would live up to his promise to wed me, but that day never came. He was killed in a flash in a car crash when Michael was 3.5 years old. The news of Carbo's death spread like wildfire. I didn't know how to grieve. Should I grieve openly like everyone else who called themselves relatives of Dr. Carbo? Or should I grieve privately? During this time, Mama was my strength. She tucked me in to sleep every night like a toddler with Michael Carbo Jr. by my side. I did not know how to tell Michael about his father. What words are adequate to inform a child his father is no more? I had hoped he would piece things together during the funeral, but no one remembered to invite me to the funeral. Michael Jr.'s name did not appear in the funeral brochure. That was not all. My biggest shock came when Mary Ann, Dr. Carbo's only relative and sister I knew, warned me not to attend the funeral. She said her brother was a staunch Christian, and my presence at the funeral might spark commotion, tarnishing his memory and good reputation. So I stayed home the day of the funeral, hoping someone would remember to bring me some photos. Michael was a good man, but he was no saint. A year later, I met my second husband, whom I had previously described as an eyesore. He was 36, much younger than Dr. Carbo. He was playful and charismatic. More importantly, my son connected with him better than his late father. I listened to him with anxious ears as he shared his dreams for me, our children, and our future in a distant country. I wished I had met him earlier. Unlike Dr. Carbo, he made time for me, plenty of it. With him, there was no need for a hide-and-seek romance. We walked openly without sending out scouts or sneaking into hotel rooms. The price I paid for his incomparable love was a bargain compared to what I had done to keep Dr. Carbo. I became pregnant a few months later. I did not want another child out of wedlock. I told him so. We settled for a low-key wedding in a local church before my pregnancy became obvious. A few months after I became pregnant, he received an offer to study at a university in Texas. He did not have sufficient money to get him to America. I willingly sold the only parcel of land Dr. Carbo had gifted me to pay for his trip to the U.S. He promised that I would join him sooner rather than later. We spoke several times every day on the phone shortly after he left for America. The frequency of our calls gradually decreased until they stopped by the end of the 3rd month. He didn't call even on the day our daughter was born. I waited in vain for his call. I started hearing things that I found hard to believe. My husband never worked at the bank. His occupation was not what he told me. I also discovered that he was not a citizen of this country. I heard so many horrible things about him till I wanted no more. I shut my ears to them. I hated his guts. My hatred for him influenced my relationship with our daughter. Many times I considered giving her up for adoption or abandoning her in the city park. I know this is a terrible thing for a mother to contemplate. What else could I do? My life was chaotic, even upside down. My tears flowed for weeks on end. As the months rolled on, I struggled to feed my children. I made and sold pastries in the neighborhood, while constantly looking out for my friends and former classmates. Koo was the last person I wanted to see. I was on the lookout for her with every twist and turn. I was now 21, an ordinary girl with 2 children and no career. The expensive cars that once noticed and stopped now sped by me with lightning speed. The boys no longer whistle as they walk past me. I was no longer that lone flower that attracted all the bees in and around Painesville. Now, if I wanted bees in my flower, I had to go and find them. I did that when I noticed my neighbor throwing his eyes over the flowers that separated our rented apartments. His name was John Marshall. About a year or 2 ago, he would not have had the audacity to look my way. How dare he? To his and my surprise, I invited him for lunch. I had seen him for over a year, but never once spoke to him. He was not the kind that would ordinarily attract my attention. Each time I saw him, he wore his oil and grease-stained clothes with bushy hair and an unkempt beard. He was simply miles away from anything I would crave in a man. Mama was outraged whenever she saw the 2 of us together. She believed he was not good material for me. Though her big and fancy dreams got me into my current predicament, her imagination conjured bigger and fancier dreams for me. In her mind's eyes, I still had the allure of that young and attractive teenager who once attracted men like a magnet. Mama reminded me each time we met that Marshall had nothing to offer me except his old Hyundai van. Perhaps he had little to offer in the material sense. In other ways, he was ready to give me the world and everything in it. He doused me with plenty of love, trust, honor, and respect, something the so-called high-flying men in my life have withheld from me. He proposed to me without seeking my nude body. That was the first time a man showed me respect and honor. I was thrilled and grateful for the promise of my first white wedding. Before I knew it, Mama was in the thick of my wedding plans. She was particular about my wedding dress, the venue for the wedding and reception, and the guest list. These were the things that least concerned me. I was not interested in building castles in the sky. At this point in my life, I desired nothing other than to follow Michael's every lead and answer his every beck and call. He was my future. I prayed for strength to be the wife he desired and deserved. Unlike Mama, I cared little about his job title, meager salary, lack of high-flying friends, and fabulous accommodation. I did not know Marshall's dreams. If he had some, he never discussed them with me. All he talked about was me and my children. That was all I wanted to hear. I shut Mama up each time she complained I was no longer listening to her. I ignored her doomsday warning that I was allowing Marshall to lower me into the depths of poverty. In her desperation, she warned that Marshall was using magical portions to take control of my life. For now, there were only 3 people I wanted to listen to for the rest of my life: Marshall, Koo, and Tracy Chapman through her song, All You Have Is Your Soul. I did not know where to find Koo. Whether she was in this country or not, I could not tell. I wanted Mama to listen to the lyrics of this important song I discovered by chance. I wish to play it in the street so that all mothers can stop whatever they are doing and listen. I hope it would prevent greedy and selfish mothers from sending their young daughters to their early graves. A week after my wedding, Mama walked into my new home for the first time. She scanned everything in the apartment with a critical eye. She rubbed the curtain between her thumb and first fingers and shook her head with disdain. Then she opened the fridge and again shook her head so hard that I imagined it would fall from her shoulders. The lines of disappointment on her face etched deeper and became more visible. She asked, "Are you sure this is the life you always wanted?" "I don't know what I want anymore. I am only picking up the pieces of my life," I retorted. "You sure know how to pick the pieces," Mama said. I ignored her and offered her the snack she called her favorite. She grabbed it without looking me in the eyes. She was surprised I was nice to her despite her disrespect to me and criticism of my marriage. I knew she had come to pick a fight with me and Marshall. I was tired and weary. I had no strength for a fight. As she ate, I sat next to her. "I want you to listen to something," I said. "Something?" She beamed at me, suspicious I was out for a mischief. "What something?" she asked, her eyes penetrating me. "A song, Mama," I said. "Song?" she asked. "Yes, a song," I assured her. She nodded. "Go ahead, I will listen while I eat," she said without looking at me. I looked at her behind the wall of tears. I was more sorry than angry with her. I wanted to love her more. I have tried, but I didn't know how. Overall, I was happy I had found my soulmate in Marshall. In this short period of our relationship, he had given me more than all the previous men in my life put together. "Go ahead, give me the song," Mama said. I asked, "Do you know a teacher is 10 times greater than the student, a father 100 times greater than a teacher, and a mother 1,000 times greater than the father?" Mama smiled, her face youthful. "That is the wisest thing I've ever heard coming out of your mouth in a long while. I only pray you treat me like a mother." I stared at her while holding back my tears. "Why are you staring at me like that?" she asked. "Mama, I wish you had told me what the woman told her daughter in Tracy Chapman's song." "Who is Tracy Chapman, and what did she tell her daughter that intrigued you?" Mama asked. "The truth," I said. "What truth?" Mama asked. I went straight to the point. "I wish you had told me not to be tempted by the shiny apple, not to eat of a bitter fruit. I wish you had told me to hunger for a taste of justice and a world of truth. Mama, I wish you'd warned me that my soul is all I have, that you too were once a girl with dreams and high hopes, that a man came and stole your heart away, that you found love once, but the price you paid was too high." Tears streamed down my face. "Mama," I said, my voice breaking, "you failed me. You did not think about me, but yourself. Now that I am treading on the straight path for the first time in my life, you have chosen to criticize my curtains, fridge, and marriage. You see nothing in this house but cheap curtains, an empty fridge, and a home saddled with lack and want. Mama, I see quite the opposite. I see beautiful and expensive curtains. I see a fridge full to the brim with assorted goods. More than that, Mama, I feel feel the cool breeze of love and happiness blowing in my direction. I see the lights of a wonderful future in the distance moving my way. Mama, many times I shudder to think I lay in your womb for 9 months. Now, I only hope there is a place where mothers like you can go and learn to become true mothers. A place where evil mothers are held accountable for the wrong they've done to their children. Mama, you failed me. I wish you would go away and never return, I said, my eyes watering. I opened the front door ajar and asked Mama to leave. She looked at me with disbelief. Me? Leave? She choked. I stared back at her with an aching heart, finding it impossible to utter the words nagging at my tongue. I mustered all the courage I could. Yes, Mama, leave and never come back. With tears in our eyes, Mama strung her bag on her shoulder and walked through the door. I shut it behind her with a big bang.
If you enjoyed this story, then hit that subscribed button and turn on all notifications so that you do not miss the next story in this series.